The top 7 breakfast foods that increase your risk of stroke. Strokes are one of the leading causes of death in the world. In fact, someone is affected by a stroke every 4 seconds. And unfortunately, most people don't know what to eat in order to lower their risk of having a stroke. So today I want to discuss the top 7 breakfast foods that you should avoid if you do want to have a stroke. I'm going to break down the research on the top 7 breakfast foods that increase your risk of having a stroke. You see, for years, doctors just focused on cholesterol as the main cause of heart disease and strokes. But now we know there are many other risk factors that could be putting you at risk for a stroke. The first food that you should avoid if you want to lower your risk of a stroke is sugary breakfast cereals. And these oils are often highly processed, which makes them very unstable and prone to oxidation in the body. And so, when consumed, they can form free radicals, which damage cells, tissues, and organs. Fruit juices are very popular, especially for breakfast, and many people believe they are healthy. However, research shows that drinking fruit juice increases your risk of stroke. Why? Well, they are loaded with fructose and glucose, which are types of sugar. And consuming a lot of sugar leads to insulin resistance and raises your risk of type 2 diabetes, which increases your risk of stroke. If you're looking to lower your risk of stroke, then eating a healthy diet is essential. For example, taking a daily supplement of 100 milligrams of vitamin E has been shown to reduce the risk of stroke in some people. And so it's important to make changes to your diet first before considering taking supplements. And this is because vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant that helps to prevent the formation of free radicals, which can damage cells and tissues in the body. I'll see you over there. In addition, taking a daily supplement of 400 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids like DHA can also lower your risk of stroke. This is because omega-3s reduce triglycerides, which is a type of fat found in your blood. High triglyceride levels increase your risk of heart disease and stroke. But studies show that taking omega-3 can help to reduce these levels and lower your risk. Some of the healthiest foods to eat include fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats like omega-3s. So try to include these foods in your breakfast to lower your risk. Also, a recent study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association showed that drinking 1 or more sweetened beverages a day raises a person's risk of stroke by 18%. And this is because soda is high in fructose, which raises uric acid levels. High uric acid levels are associated with an increased risk of hypertension, which can lead to a stroke. Switching to unsweetened beverages like water or black coffee is a much better choice if you want to lower your risk of stroke. Why? Well, fruit juices are usually high in fructose and unhealthy fats, all of which can increase your risk of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease, which raises your risk of stroke. For example, croissants, which are a popular pastry in France, are high in butter and flour, both of which are sources of saturated fat. A study published in the journal Stroke showed that eating more saturated fat increases a person's risk of stroke. Also, pastries often contain trans fats, which are also found in margarine, which we spoke about earlier. And so eating too many pastries can increase your risk of stroke. But the good news is that you can easily replace pastries with healthier breakfast options like oatmeal, Greek yogurt, or whole grain toast with avocado. These are much lower in saturated and trans fats, and they are packed with nutrients that protect against heart disease and stroke. Research shows that eating a lot of fructose can lead to fatty liver disease, which increases your risk of heart disease and stroke. Plus, drinking fruit juices increases your blood sugar levels, which damages your blood vessels over time and raises your risk of stroke. And so if you really want to lower your risk of stroke, you're best off eating whole fruits instead of drinking fruit juice. Whole fruits are high in fiber, which lowers blood sugar. They also contain antioxidants and phytochemicals that are not found in fruit juice. So choose whole fruits over fruit juice if you want to lower your risk of stroke. This can lead to inflammation, which increases the risk of many diseases, including heart disease and stroke. And it's usually high in sodium, saturated fat, and preservatives, all of which increase your risk of heart disease and stroke. In fact, research from Harvard University showed that eating 1 serving of processed meat like sausage, salami, or bacon daily increased a person's risk of developing heart disease by 42. Now, this is because processed meats like sausage contain nitrates, which are chemicals that preserve the color, flavor, and texture of the meat. But nitrates have been linked to an increased risk of cancer and heart disease. And so eating a lot of sausage does raise your risk of stroke. But the good news is, you can easily replace sausage with healthier protein sources like eggs, chicken, or fish. These are much lower in sodium and saturated fat, and they contain nutrients like omega-3 south, which protect against heart disease and stroke. Also, margarine contains trans fats, which are produced when liquid oil is turned into solid at room temperature. Trans fats raise your bad cholesterol and lower your good cholesterol, which increases your risk of heart disease and stroke. And so avoiding margarine and replacing it with something healthier like avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil is essential to lower your risk of stroke. Now, when you look at the ingredients of most breakfast cereals, they almost always contain added sugar. Now, added sugar isn't naturally found in the food, and it's usually added during processing. For example, table sugar, which is sucrose, is added to lots of foods. And it's important to avoid this added sugar because eating too much can lead to many health problems. For example, studies show that eating a lot of added sugar increases your risk of obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease, which also raises your risk of stroke. And so you definitely want to watch out for this. And so I'll talk about how each one of these increase your risk. Also, please remember, this video is for educational purposes only, so do speak with your doctor if you have any medical concerns. But did you know that drinking too much coffee can actually raise your risk of stroke? Well, several studies have shown this. For example, in a study called the Nurses' Health Study, researchers studied over 83,000 nurses who drank coffee. They discovered that those who drank 2 to 3 cups of caffeinated coffee daily had a higher risk of stroke. However, those who drank 4 or more cups had a significantly increased risk. On the other hand, the study showed that drinking 1 to 2 cups of decaffeinated coffee was actually protective against stroke and reduced a woman's risk by 12%. So it seems like the caffeine in coffee may be raising blood pressure and increasing heart rate, both of which increase your risk of stroke. But the good news is that switching to decaf will lower your risk. Also, drinking too much coffee can lead to dehydration, which can also increase your risk of stroke. So try to stick to around 1 or 2 cups per day if you do and want to increase your risk. So let's get straight into it. Now, when choosing a cereal, make sure you read the nutrition label and check how much sugar is in the cereal. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 25 grams or 6 teaspoons of sugar per day for women. Add no more than 36 grams or 9 teaspoons of sugar for men. And so, stick to less than this amount if you don't want a stroke. No, 2 is coffee. Coffee is the most popular drink in the world, and it's loved by billions. Number 3 is margarine. Margarine is made from vegetable oils like soybean oil, corn, canola, cottonseed, or sunflower oils. If you're finding this information useful, please tap the like button. Subscribe and turn all notifications on to stay updated with my latest health and nutrition tips. Let's jump back now to No. 4, which is fruit juices. No. 5 is sausage. Sausage is a processed meat that's made from a mixture of ground meat, fat, and salt. No. 6 is soda and sweetened beverages. Soda and sweetened beverages are some of the worst things you can drink if you do want to have a stroke. And finally, number 7 is pastries. Pastries are delicious, but they are often high in refined carbohydrates, sugars, and so that pretty much sums up the 7 breakfast foods that you should avoid if you do and want a stroke. However, there are also certain vitamins, minerals, and supplements that can help to lower your risk of stroke too. But please remember that taking supplements won't do anything if you're still eating a poor, unhealthy diet. So on that note, if you're looking for some healthy breakfast recipes that will lower your risk of stroke, I recommend checking out this video here.